switch your microphone to mute. We also have, if you want to put your screen on, I think speaker view, you'll see just the speaker who's speaking at each time. So as Troy said, that will help. It is such a pleasure to welcome you all as we gather together as a church. As you know, my name is Connie Wright, and I'm the moderator for your board of directors, and I'll be moderating today's meeting. Church family, as we look back to our past year in this church and then to our future, as we move forward, we have so much to be proud of, and we have such an exciting future in front of us. So let us begin. Remember, if any of you have a question, you'll be using the Zoom chat function, and we have people who will be monitoring those questions and putting them forth to the proper person to answer and give you a response. So in the words of Reverend Vicky, ASAP, always stop and pray. So let us prepare for prayer. Holy One, we come together asking for your guidance and wisdom in the work of this church. Continue to show us the way. Keep our hearts open, our minds free of judgment, as we seek to grow ever closer to you. Amen. I'm going to read the agenda for you as to what we're going to be doing. Of course, we've just done our prayer. We'll have our nominating committee report to follow with the candidates' statements and questions and responses to the candidates. Then a ministry report and a budget report would both have questions and responses to those. And then we have a closing prayer. So we will begin first by introducing our nominating committee. The chairs are Van Johnson and Lily Chu, and if you will take it away.
Van English, thank you.
I'm sorry, I do that to you every time I get nervous. Sorry.
He's a famous actor. I'm happy to be aligned with that.
I apologize.
And Lily has Lily been made a host? Lily actually has the first portion of our presentation to deliver.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Greetings, church. Thank you for the privilege of serving on this committee. It has been an honor to work on your behalf with such a faithful group of believers. Van English has graciously mentored me in co-chairing this committee, and all of our members listed here have willingly committed their time, talents, and thoughtful deliberations to this process, completing the search in record time. Thank you to all the applicants who prayerfully considered and applied to serve with the board in guiding our church and stewarding our resources. We appreciate your heartfelt applications and your desire to join the board in service to our church. At this time, I would like to present your slate of candidates for board of directors in alphabetical order by first name: Georgette Monahan, Jacqueline Marshall, Robert Amadon, Shari McGothing. Van English will now walk us through the next steps.
All right, here we go. So this is the first time we have attempted any such thing. So we ask your grace and your understanding and your patience. Once again, please check how you are named. Make sure that your name is how your name is as the church knows you, and not a nickname and not the name of your device, because you are going to be writing your questions into the chat function of the Zoom platform as each of the candidates is speaking. Once each candidate has delivered the 60-second presentation, after all four of them have done that, we will have the opportunity for a few questions to be asked. We're going to limit that to 2 to 3 questions per candidate, with the goal of having all of that be completed in approximately 8 minutes. Ashley Bernal, our scribe, and her assistant scribe, Lisette Herrera, will be managing that chat box, chat room, and ensuring that there are not duplicate questions. Please, as you write your questions, direct them to the candidate or candidates to whom you intend to ask those questions. If we do not get to all of the questions that are logged during this portion, those will all have been recorded by both the video recording portion of the Zoom function and as well by Ashley and Lisette. And your question will be answered directly by the candidate to whom you're inquiring. All right, Ashley and Lisette, are we ready to go?
Yes, we are ready.
All right. Now, we're going to call each candidate up to this virtual chancel to deliver your 60 minutes. Again, in first name alphabetical order. Georgette, come on up.
Me? Oh, okay. It's seconds. I don't have 60 minutes, so. Okay.
60 seconds.
Okay. Okay. Why I want to do this again. Being a board member, I have welcomed the challenges and opportunities this position has brought before me. Going forward, I will welcome both with passion, consistent loyalty, tenacity, transparency, and honesty. I have the time. I am retired. I have the talent, and I continue to consistently give of my treasures. I pledge to use my personal experiences as well as explore inside and outside of the box for additional resources to maintain the growth, the safety, and the financial stability of RMCC. I am proud to represent you, and my door is always open. Thank you.
Thank you, Georgette. Lily, who's next?
That would be Jacqueline Marshall.
Jackie, come on up to the podium.
There we go.
You may have to unmute. There you go.
There we go. So why do I want to run again? Well, first of all, let me tell you what, I have a heart for this church. I've been a member for 32 years, and I have grown up and grown mature in Resurrection. And I just have a heart for this congregation. I've been through some life experiences and things that they have lifted me up and carried me through. I also have some skills that I think are helpful right now. I'm a veterinarian, and so I'm familiar with virology and epidemiology and infectious disease control and disinfection and sanitization and triage, crisis management. And I've been served on the board through some transitions at Resurrection. So I think I bring to the board some skills that are really helpful right now, but mainly I want to serve, and I want to see us get back to in-person worship and do it as safely and as carefully and as appropriately as we can. And I want to serve another 3 years.
Thank you, Jackie. Next up is Mr. Robert Amadon. Bob, come on up to the speaker stand and let us hear from you in 60 seconds or less.
Thanks, Ben. So I'm seeking re-election to your board of directors in a happy state of mind. I've been a voting member of MCC for 5 years. Since joining our church, I've used my professional career experience to serve on your finance committee and your budget committee. During my first term on the board, I've been the assistant treasurer, and for the last year served as treasurer. Additionally, I've assisted with various fundraising events, Fishes and Loaves, done readings at our worship services. And finally, I participated on our 2019 Worldwide General Conference Planning Committee by coordinating the volunteers at the Orlando General Conference. And that I have a sincere interest to continue to serve and continue my spiritual journey. I would ask for your endorsement to again represent you on the board of directors. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bob. And last but certainly not least, Shari McGothing.
Good afternoon, Resurrection. One of the many things I love about our community is that we are courageous. Daily, we show the unconditional love of Jesus. We have the courage to meet people where they are. This courage inspired me to run for the board in 2017. Over the past 3 years, we have faced physical, spiritual, and emotional obstacles as a church. It is my desire to serve another term to be part of the completion of various initiatives currently underway and to work with the executive team and the other board members on our pathway through this current health crisis, the pandemic. As we look towards the future, I want to continue our courageous ability of ministering to our faith community and the city of Houston as we remain to be a beacon of light for all to see. I would like to share with you a few of my accomplishments as the Director of Board Development. I have overseen the revision of the board manual. I have led the board through a leadership development series. I have revised the board onboarding process and facilitated the formation of a database of congregants to use as a resource for ministry leads with members of the executive team. I am grateful for your support during my first term as a member of the board, and I would appreciate you voting for the slate this year. Thank you.
Thank you all so much, candidates. And that concludes the candidate statements. Are there questions? Please put those in the chat box. If not, there will be another opportunity for Q&A afterward. And thank you all for entrusting our nominating committee with this important process.
So just to double check, do we have any questions in the chat box?
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. All righty, Ashley, if you will take care of that, please.
Okay. Our first question is for each board member, and you can answer in the same rotation, Georgette, Bob, Jackie, and Shari. You have served on the board before. Why do you want to do it again?
This is Georgette. That's what I answered in my presentation. Do I need to say it again?
I love the church.
I love the church, yeah. Can I say something real quick, though? We've had several people enter with only one name. If you would put both your names on your screen, it would help. Thank you. Do I need to say mine again?
No.
Okay.
So I feel really called to finish what we started. As a board and as a team, we've ridden the ups and downs of these transitions and this pandemic. We have an exceptional team working together on the board of directors right now. And I personally want to continue to be a part of that team and complete the works that we've started. Bob?
Bob, would you
answer
like to
to-
make some comments?
Yes. My answer to the question would be that like the first two responses, I too want to finish the initiatives that we started. I agree that the group we have right now is very much aligned in terms of required talents. I'm recently retired. I now have more time to give to the board, and I think I can continue to call upon my experience to help us. That's why I would like to continue.
Thank you, Bob. And Shari, would you like to address that?
So I think my answer falls in line with everybody else's. 3 years seems like a long time, but it isn't really a long time. There are things that we want to put in place that we have not been able to put in place for several different reasons. One, mainly the pandemic, and just like to see those things through their completion. But also in this period of time, help us come back into the church in the most healthy and productive way for us as a congregation.
Thank you, candidates. Ashley, are there other questions?
Yes. Our next question is, how do you see best to transition back to on-site meeting if you propose a plan?
Is that directed to anyone in particular?
It is not.
Which candidate would like to answer that? And we are about halfway through our 8-minute period.
So Reverend Troy is going to lead us through that process. He has been doing extensive study and research on the best way to do that. And the board is not only here as a resource to him, but here as a team to help make decisions. But that will be led primarily through Reverend Troy. And Reverend Troy, I believe, is going to address that later on in this meeting.
Thank you, Jackie.
We have another question for all the candidates. Where do you see the church ministries in 3 years? New ones that may be retired or change as a result of recent social realizations. And this is a question for everyone. Where do you see the church ministries in 3 years?
This is Shari, and I'll jump in here. I think that we kind of have to readjust so many of the things, as I said before, that we wanted to do, we haven't been able to do because of our virtual settings. But we've done a lot in our virtual setting as a church. And so I think our goal is to support the ministry leads as they put their plans in place. Yes, we have a strategic plan that we want to see carried out, and we want to make sure that we hit those individuals, the young adults and our Latinx and our various demographics. But I think we work with the ministry leads and continue to be as progressive as we have been over these past few years.
We have about 2 minutes remaining for questions.
Right. How do you see us growing our church and prepping our younger adults and youth to grow, as they are the future of our church? It's not directed to anybody in particular.
Who has not answered a question?
Georgette, you want to jump in there?
Well, I'm looking. Just a minute.
1 minute and 30 seconds.
So I
Go
think
ahead, Jack.
I think our young adults and I think it's a process of developing and growing leadership and involvement in ministry to develop leadership skills. But I wanted to answer the last question, and it might help with this one as well. We did some looking at some questions from Susan Beaumont about what do we do now in the middle of this pandemic and in virtual church, and looking at the opportunities and trying to reassess what our assumptions used to be and what they need to be now. And it's an opportunity for change and growth in ways that we really never anticipated. So I think that's a tough question to answer right this minute, but I think the opportunities that will absolutely be a huge focus of this board of directors. It's one of our initiatives and one of our strategic initiatives. And so certainly that will be in our thoughts and in our hearts as we move forward.
And with that, we have completed 8 minutes, unless I hear an instruction to extend that.
You don't hear an instruction to extend that. Any questions that have not been answered will be answered individually to the people that they were given to. So they'll just stay on the chat side and they will have their answer sent to them. And it'll be to everybody. My understanding is, and just correct me if I'm wrong, George, that the answers can go back and everyone who is on the Zoom meeting can see the chat answer.
I Go ahead, Troy.
No, we'll share that with everyone.
Okay, thank you.
That's not the method, but yeah.
All right, all right. All righty, so thank you so much. Nominating committee, well done. Great job. As you know, it is difficult to do, and lots of meetings and reports. So thank you all very much for everything that you've done. We're
Our
going to,
pleasure.
thank you, Van English. We're going to continue on with our ministry report from our senior pastor, Reverend Troy Tresh. If you'll present that, please.
Happy to. I want to say to everyone, we're all feeling in our bodies and our spirits what this year has been like. And so I just want to lift up a few things for us to focus on and recognize that there's much more ready and waiting for us to do as we come back on campus and meet post COVID-19, which I'm looking forward to that face-to-face day. We started out this year with a Revive retreat that Reverend Vicki launched with a team of young adults and some other leaders that then launched home groups just in time to stay at home and do study during the pandemic. Reverend Vicki and I went to the Lynching Museum together to prepare for the Crossing the Lynching Tree series, as we knew we wanted to continue to be an anti-racist congregation. After that, COVID-19 hit full force, and we had to pivot very quickly to online worship and programming, which we did very successfully. A lot of talented people, volunteers, talented people on the technology team of our church, and all their names are listed in my written report in the packet. So if you haven't looked at that, it's important to know those folks' names and tell them thank you. In the middle of this time of being at home, George Floyd was killed. And so we offered a vigil here in honor of George Floyd and in our hopes of having justice finally in the United States. And we renewed, the board voted again to renew our commitment to be an anti-racist community. And so some of our programming following that went with that commitment, and some of our classes you have seen ongoing for the church, and we've had some good success. Everyone has another step to make when it comes to anti-racism. I have another step to make. Today, I'm not where I was, and I'm thankful for that. And I know I have more steps to go. Just 2 weeks after George Floyd's vigil that Reverend Vicki led, Reverend Vicki died on July 10th. And following her death, we hired a consultant, crisis consultant, Dory, to lead us through some consulting, counseling, and some time to be with one another. We are thankful for her for doing that. And also Denise Junius led a grief group for us in the process of remembering Reverend Vicki. Reverend Vicki's voice was amplified around the world. The idea of a lesbian grandmother, mother, clergy woman, also African-American, dying of COVID, changed the nature of how people see us. And that story went everywhere. If you look on our website, you'll see all the many different news media, both print and film, that actually shared that story. And we were ready with our social media team as well. Our social media team, beyond Reverend Vicki's expanded witness, also took advantage of every moment we had this year, whether it was a Black Lives Matters banner being taken down, or the Pope saying something about LGBT people. We have been in the media over and over again, and we don't take that for granted. That's a respectful, earned media that is good for us. Also this year, because of our volunteers and because of all that outreach and witness, our footprint has really expanded online with lots of vehicles. And we have one of our members last class joined from Florida, and we have people coming from Costa Rica. And so one of our commitments for returning to campus is to not diminish our online presence. And so we've greatly improved the quality of what people experience online on Sunday mornings. And so we want to be able to do both face-to-face worship and have an excellent online witness. And so that'll be a new stretch for us to try and see how we can do both at the same time. 2021 hopes include coming back to campus at some time. We are not going to come back in 2020. It is one of the questions I saw was why is it taking us so long to come back to campus in the chat? And so I'll just go ahead and say we've taken our time and we've watched other people do it well so that we can do it as good as the best people are. I've got my eye on a couple of sports teams and a couple of school districts that have been very successful in what they've put together. And I believe Resurrection can do that as well. Also, we didn't want to come back before we have our people ready to come back. When we did the survey of all of our congregants, there was a wide breadth of responses to what it would mean to come back. Everything from not until a vaccine, don't put our people in danger, to why did we ever stop? Let's put on a mask and go for it. And so until we are able to engage in conversation and bring people down that journey further, we did not want to start back prematurely. So part of it's our spiritually being ready, having our processes and protocols are mostly in place already, but being mentally and spiritually ready to come back takes a little time too. So that's part of the delay. But right now we have seen some real success for people with mask wearing and distancing. And so we look forward in 2021 to pick that time and target it for us to come back and worship together. And there's so much more, but that's what we'll talk about today.
Thank you so much, Troy. Robert Amadon, who is our board treasurer, has our financial update. Robert, if you're ready, please.
Thank you, Connie. You can go to the next slide, please. So I want to start today with our year-to-date income actual versus budget, and note that overall we are $89,000 favorable in our income compared to budget, which is a phenomenal accomplishment for us. Our general tithes and offerings, you'll note, is a negative number shown here of 37,000. I'm happy to update that as of 11/1, that variance is down to 28,000. We've had a few good weeks of collections that have helped us in that area. The fundraising number is negative 7,000. The fundraising year to date primarily comes from our 48th anniversary and our Easter offerings. I will say that the full year will probably go further negative due to us not having drag bingo in November. But we will be able to overcome that, I believe. The miscellaneous income has been very good this year, and that reflects the fact that we applied for and were approved for CARES Act stimulus money. We as a church received $61,000 from the CARES Act. We have completed the loan forgiveness application to, again, make that not a loan to us, but a forgivable amount. And we expect that to not be an issue. We've also been blessed to receive additional funds from Big Tex Bingo this year to the tune of $67,000. That was not totally expected. And then our campus rentals have been staying with budget. We have lease agreements with several areas. They are abiding by that. So our campus rentals are staying within budget and slightly higher than budget. Overall, we are $89,000 ahead. Next slide is going to now take a look at where we are this year versus last year. Given that we've not had the benefit of collection basket giving since mid-March, we are doing very well compared to last year. And I thank the congregation for their generosity here. We are at 554,000 as of this writing versus 559 last year, so within $5,300. Again, our fundraising has done well, primarily from the 48th anniversary, but fourth quarter inactivity will probably reduce that favorability. Our offerings, as I mentioned before, the 5,000, I just point out that that's within 1% of our 2019 giving. Also, I want to make note that as of last Sunday, the congregation's generosity has also included over $10,000 honoring Reverend Vicky's passion and causes under our designated giving areas. We've also raised $3,800 that was sent to the Philippines Open Table congregation to help them with their struggles there. And we had about $270 given to the MTC El Paso group for the issues that they're dealing with in their congregation. Overall, compared to last year, we are favorable in income, 141,000. Next slide. Now I want to take a look at our year-over-year weekly attendance. Year-to-date October last year, we were averaging 323 people attending worship and about 381 attending programming functions. Year-to-date this year, our 316 is the number of sign-ons from YouTube, Facebook, and live stream averaging. Okay. I would point out that that is not truly the number that is viewing us, because we know in many cases, multiple people are viewing from the same sign-on. So if we were to take an estimate of what we think the actual number viewing us each week virtually, it's around 440 to 450 people, and that is an estimate. I also want to point out to everyone the number of 565 for our programming. This is just an excellent response to our Wednesday evening classes and all of the other Zoom offerings that we've had. So overall, I think we should be very proud that our virtual services and programming, given the COVID situation, have been successful. The executive team, the board, and our AV staff has really risen to the occasion and brought us well into what we needed to be to function as a virtual congregation. Next slide. I'd like to touch upon our bank balances as of end of October and share that we are in a very favorable position here. You'll see that our Alpha endowment is standing at around 33,000. This is the investment fund that we have. We are allowed to use the interest and proceeds from this fund. To this point, we have not tapped into those interest and proceeds. The benevolence funds, that's our designated funds for HIV and AIDS work in the community. Bookstore balance stands at around 4,900. Obviously, the bookstore has not had the activity this year as it does in previous years because we're not on campus. Our balance from the refinancing and the additional big tax is at 88,000. I will point out to you that the additional big tax funds that we've received, the 67,000 that I mentioned previously, have been put aside. They're in this account, so they are not part of our weekly operating expenses. We've tried to save that for additional use for other initiatives, and we're happy to say that we've been able to segregate those funds. They are available to us as we see fit. The foundation first is our activities building fund. You'll recall that we started several aspects of phase one on the activities building. Since we've gone into the pandemic situation, we've stopped working on activities building, but we still have 31,000 from our original campaign raising for that would be available to us. Overall, our general funds at 89,000 is used for operating expenses. And I will mention that our cash flow position for the rest of the year is looking very stable as well. So overall, 251,000, very favorable cash position. And I would just mention that at 2019, our cash balance was 170. So a very good situation in terms of our cash position. Now I'd like to move into the 2021 budget. Well, I'd like to thank the Budget Committee. This year we had 7 members, Tricia Phillips, Dawana Jurgen, Manuel, Doug Perkins joined us this year, Eddie Domingue, Ray Turner, our Assistant Treasurer, and myself. So thank you to the committee for your time and helpfulness with putting together this year's budget. First slide here talks about our proposed 2021 income. You will see that the number there for total is expected to be 901. A comparative number for this year was 918. So overall, we're looking at a very close budget for 2021 versus 2020. Our general offerings is at 702. After careful consideration of the 2020 budget and looking at any variances that we've experienced, we felt confident to go in next year with a 702 number and feel that that will be achievable. Our fundraising for next year is a bit less than what we had in this year's budget. We are taking the assumption that a few of our events that will be handled in the first part of the year probably will not occur. So we've been conservative in this area and said that our fundraising will continue, of course, to have an Easter offering. We will continue in 2021 Christmas to have a Meet Me at the Manger. But for our other activities, we've assumed that we would only have those functions that would take place during the time period of July through December on campus. So again, those that might occur during the first part of 2021, we have not included in the budget to be conservative. Our income from miscellaneous rentals, bookstore, big techs has again been put in at a pretty conservative number. We have some known leases that are committed that we've certainly included. We have our bookstore numbers in there, again, assuming a July through December activity, as well as big techs. So Big Techs Bingo has been kind to us. We are every month receiving funds from them. Additional funds come in each quarter. So that has helped us. And we have confirmation that that will continue to come to us in 2021 by that organization. So overall, the 901 versus 918 is about a 2.1% decrease, but we are confident in presenting this 901 to you. Next slide. The other half of the budget is we've talked about the income. Now we need to talk about the expense side. As congregants will understand, we always present a balanced budget. So our operating expenses next year have been tailored to meet the 901, again, down from 918. Really, the area that we are able to decrease for next year is we know we will have reduced copier expense, reduced printing and paper expense, which will help us next year. Our salaries, stipends, and benefits, there's a slight increase there, as is required for the organization. I will mention that our stipends are being maintained at the same level, which is good for us. We have a lot of people working behind the scenes, even during the COVID situation, to keep us going, and that will continue. Our property insurance and utilities remain stable in terms of expense. And also the funds that we have going out for worship, spiritual development, our campus services, and again, our mortgage principal and interest will be maintained. So we've come in with a budget of 901 in expenses as well. Next slide. Here we're going to look at our general offerings and compared to our weekly attendance. You'll recall that as of October of this year, we're averaging 316. That gives us an average weekly per person giving number of $40.80. Assuming for the 2021, and we're to be back on campus, if we maintained the 2019 weekly attendance when we were on campus, we were at 323. To achieve our 2021 general giving budget of 702, that would require a weekly per person giving number of around $41.84, a very slight increase of 2.5%. The committee feels that this is reasonable and not a big stretch for us. Again, assuming that we're back on campus in 2021 to the levels of where we were in 2019, if not greater. The general offerings target of 702 seems to be reasonable for us. Our highlights of the 2021 budget that I want to point out, as I mentioned previously, we've had a reduction of about 2% in our expenses versus this year after taking a thorough review with Reverend Troy and the executive team. Our mortgage repayment, we have refinanced a few years ago. We are at a 15-year rate. I'm happy to say that our current balance is at 817. Our original refinance number for people's interest was 950. And last year at this time, we were at 852. Our now principal balance is at 817. Again, per agreement with the denomination, we are increasing our annual tithes as we agreed to with them. We're going from 4.5% to 5% with that for next year. I will mention that this year, the full year estimate for the denomination tithes is 48,000. The 5% will take us into a range of about 53 to 55,000. And that, of course, has been built into the budget that you've seen in those numbers. I think overall, the comment would be that we again are presenting a realistic approach on the anticipated general offerings and our miscellaneous income categories, and do not feel as a committee or as a board that we have significant risk with meeting this budget.
Well, thank you, Robert Amadon, and thank you and your committee for all the time and work that you put in putting this budget together so that we can all understand and appreciate all that is happening behind the scenes. So thank you, Budget Committee, and especially you, Robert. We have now, if you have some questions, we've seen some come through on the, not on the chat side, but to everyone. So Shari and George, you will be monitoring those questions. Do we have any questions at this time?
There really are no questions. There were a couple. Well, there was one question about what is big text, and Mark Eggleston did a great job of answering that in the chat. So for everyone to know, Big Text is a bingo hall that's located on the north side, and it supports Resurrection as well as Pride Charities, which is the food pantry and the clothes closet, Excel Ministries, and several other LGBTQ organization nonprofits here in the Houston area. And we've received many wonderful contributions from them in addition to their regular ones this year. That's the answer on Big Text. And then we had a couple of responses. Great job on the rentals. And then thanking everyone for their generosity. George, did you see anything else come through?
No, I do have one. We did have someone join us later, and I need to know their name. It's Hug Awa. If you could put your name on your.
Thank you, George. So let's move on with the meeting.
All righty. So our annual congregational meeting is next week, and so I'd like to thank everybody for being here, but we don't want you to leave yet because we'd like to, I use the word practice because we have to vote next week, and we're going to be using the Zoom format to do that in. So Troy, if you will take over and what we can expect to see with that.
For next week?
Yes, sir.
Yes. And so I'd like to do a little poll with y'all because this is what we'll be using next week to vote. And so, Kim, if you'll launch the poll that's in there for this meeting, we should have access to it. It simply is a quick question asking you what kind of device do you plan to use next week to vote? And Kim, can you find it within the annual congregational forum? And if not, we won't. Darn. I don't see it, so, oh, it says I can't access it. So we won't be doing that this week, but they are set up for next week, and we will doing it through polls. Each question, board slate, budget, will have a different poll for you to reply to. I did see a question on here. From Tom, we have reduced some utility expenses, but those don't go down as much as you might expect. We have some musical instruments that require us to keep the sanctuary within a 10-degree range of 70. And so some things don't get as cheap as you hope they would be. And I thought there was another question. I can't find it now. A question about burnout. I believe that our people are working very hard and are very passionate and very committed to what we're doing. We have to take care of our people. And so we're looking at closing the office completely for Thanksgiving week, closing the office completely between Christmas and New Year's. We're planning as best we can to help require some people to take some time off. This is an interesting time where regular work hours don't feel the same because you have your cell phone and your laptop with you, and they extend throughout your whole life. So we're working on that as best we can. I encourage all staff and stipend folk, if they are feeling burnout, to please talk to their supervisor immediately, because we care about them and we want to keep them.
Robert Amadon, you have your hand up.
Yes, I just wanted to respond to the one question concerning, is there funds in the 2021 budget for an associate pastor position? The answer is yes.
Thank you. I think that Georgette would like to remind everyone next week, when you sign on, first and last name, and that each person, it has their own device. You cannot both vote on one device. So if you're going to have two devices, one person in one part of the house and one person in the other, so that you don't get feedback. But that's how we're going to have to do it. Each person, it's one vote, one device, and both names, just to sum it all up.
Hey, y'all, I figured out I can launch the poll. So here it goes. This is what
okay,
you see
good.
next week. Okay. So what you would do now on your phone is you would pick one of those that apply to you. And so are you going to use a computer, laptop, smartphone, paper ballot, any of those things?
That's cool.
And you'll see it doesn't take long for this to happen, as long as people can vote hit the button. We're up to 37 of 58, 39 of 58 responding. Okay, so for each of our major questions next week, we will launch a poll like this. And then at the end of the poll, we will end it. And then we will share the results with you, so you will know immediately what the counts were on the votes that we took. So you'll know about the board slate, you'll know about the budget. So it looks like next week, 10 are on desktop, 16 are on laptop, 11 are on smartphone. So this is what it'll look like. I just made this one in here for fun for you, to see what it'll look like when we're together next week. And so
Susan, you had a question? You're on mute. You're on mute, Susan. Susan Broussard, you're on mute.
I think we answered Susan's question.
She just raised her hand.
I think she might have been trying to vote.
There. No, I did vote on the poll. I did vote on the poll, and I see it says percentages for each of the answers for how it would look next week, but it doesn't tell me how many voted.
It does on my end. I can tell you exactly how many. You didn't see how many, it just showed a percentage. That's
No, it shows in the parentheses the number.
Where is that?
Right in front of the percentage number.
I don't see that on the.
Excuse me, Susan can't see what the people who are hosts can see.
Oh,
so
thank
we
you.
see a different screen.
Okay, so we will read it out. We will save it, take a screenshot of it, and we'll read it out.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you.
That way we know how many people vote to understand the percentage.
That helps. That question helped.
Good.
And so for next week, we need about 65 people to establish a quorum. And so
Yes.
we need 65 people coming ready to vote next week. And I think, Connie, where are we now? Are we ready for
We are ready to pray us out.
Okay, and that's going to be me today. So for all of our people, let us pray. Holy God, we thank you for talent and time and treasure. We thank you for technology. We thank you for people with all these different gifts that make it possible for us to continue being a church in the way we are. We're thankful for being in a good place financially, and we're grateful for all those who've sacrificed to make it that way. We're hopeful for what the new year will bring and what our search will be to find the best team members for our congregation. we're hopeful that this virus will end. Pray for each of us that we stay safe, that we wear our masks, that we do what is necessary to prevent the spread in our own home and to our own families. In all things, may we trust God. May we trust God to take us through all of this to the next place God is calling us to be. We pray this in Jesus' holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank y'all very much and have a great day.